We've seen Tesla go through a lot of different step changes, a lot of different landmark moments. Previously, that's been things like the Model 3 ramp, Tesla reaching high volume. Profitability was another big one for the company. What do you think the next one could be for Tesla, and how do you think that could impact the business overall?
Oh, full self-driving. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, getting that thing finalized and getting that thing accepted by regulators worldwide is going to be Tesla's next challenge. Um, it's in a very different sort of, I guess, context, because the other things that Tesla faced were much more related to hardware and manufacturing, where this is much more software and acceptance from governments for a brand new technology that's never existed before, that asks the human to relinquish control in a environment where humans view as a very stressful, dangerous thing they have to do every single day. You know, at least in the States, every time you get in a car, part of you feels like I could die today. That sometimes goes through my mind. I'm like, okay, wow, this 18 wheeler is right next to me and he's driving like a lunatic, and literally this guy could just turn his wheel left and I'm under the trailer and I'm dead, I'm decapitated. It's like it could happen like that. And 40,000 people a year die on the roads in the United States. That's a lot of freaking people. 40,000 people every single year die in the United States on the road. There's 365 days in a year. That's like what? That's like 100 people a day, 110 people a day or something. That's crazy. That's a lot of freaking people. Every single day, 110 people die in the United States because of driving. That is wild. So that seems like it's something that people generally understand to be very, very dangerous. And creating that trust between driver and software and company is going to be a battle that Tesla's going to have on its hands. But I do think the affordability of the transportation, meaning that, when you don't have a driver and it's just a car driving you around, you remove a big piece of the cost of moving around. And then if they can prove that the safety is orders of magnitude better than a human, you go from 40,000 deaths on the road to 4,000 deaths on the road. And my dog agrees. You can hear her, right? She's excited about it. What was I saying? The affordability and creating the trust. Okay. And so the key thing here is for Tesla to make the value proposition so damn good that it's going to be completely unignorable. Like, it's just going to be undeniable. I can't get her to stop. She's so excited about the self-driving. But yeah, I really do think that's the biggest thing here, is that Tesla just needs to make sure that they prove this technology to be just undeniable. And I think they'll get there. I think that's a no-brainer. I'm already seeing it myself with the technology, with full self-driving. It's getting so good around my parts. I've stopped driving altogether. I just let the car do its thing. And I think as more people get exposure to that, and it becomes once it becomes real, I think it's going to be an avalanche that's going to be unstoppable.
You mentioned 40,000 deaths a year in the US. I think this is going to be the sort of thing in 50 years' time, 100 years' time. We're kind of amazed anybody was allowed to drive. And we kind of just accepted this status quo, which we're sort of living in at the moment. And then drawing on something else Elon's been speaking about recently is, generally speaking, he says he has quite good relationships with regulators, and he says most of the times, he's worked with a lot of regulators at Tesla and SpaceX, and he says most of the time they're very reasonable people. Do you think it's going to be as hard as everyone's expecting to really get it through the regulators, or are the regulators looking at the 40,000 deaths a year and thinking something needs to give? Maybe this is finally the solution.
I think that's that's a very good question. A phenomenally good question. If Elon and Tesla and SpaceX didn't have good relationships with regulators, they wouldn't have been able to release a full self-driving beta, and they wouldn't have been able to test reusable rockets. Just think think about reusable rockets for a second. What does that imply? There is a missile coming back to Earth. That's what a reusable rocket is. And then the regulars are like, no, that would be amazing for costs and putting stuff into space. Yeah, just please don't kill anybody with it. They're like, no, we got it. Don't worry. We got freaking bombs all over the rocket. The second we see something wrong, that thing's blown up. They're like, okay, go ahead. Right? You're literally saying, okay, Elon, we trust you with a missile. That's literally what they're saying. So, and then you think about full self-driving beta, there's not a lot of difference there either. You know, it's like, hey, we're trusting you with a road missile that is not quite finished, and it could make mistakes and kill somebody. But we think that you letting the person that's driving the car to ultimately have control of the car, it makes sense because long term it's going to help us with costs and safety. So if they didn't have like that, requires a level of trust and confidence and a relationship that unless you have that thing, that thing is impossible. It's impossible to achieve that. So yeah, I think that's a really good question. That the crux of the whole thing is like, if a good relationship didn't exist, none of these technologies would be possible today. And for the people that are saying, "Oh my God, there's all these death machines on the road," I'm like, yeah, but they're not. Like they're literally not. And the regulators obviously recognize that they're not. They're already safer than a human, and it discounts just how bad people are at driving. Why are 40,000 people dying every single year in the United States? And I'm not saying like driving inherently is a bad thing. I'm just saying that there's a number of humans, and I'm not saying I'm not one of them. I'm just saying humans in general probably shouldn't be trusted with road missiles at some point in the future, you know? But until then, I'm going to keep driving because I love driving. I personally, I love Gran Turismo. It's my favorite game of all time. I love cars. But if it means 40,000 people will not die every year, why wouldn't we do that? Why wouldn't we do that? And so that's going to become the biggest question. And then it becomes a question of control. And it becomes a question of like, here you go, the government's taking another thing away from me. Like, yeah, probably. Probably they will. But, you know, you might be able to take your car to the racetrack. You know, you could go, you know, have a permit that says, you know, on your windshield, driving to racetrack to drive my manual Porsche, which is probably something I'm going to do in 30 years time. Hopefully, you know, I have my 911 manual and I'll take it to the freaking Nürburgring in Germany and I'll just drive that thing around and hopefully I don't eat it, you know? So yeah, so I'm kind of looking forward to that future, to be honest.